Hello, my name's Sarah Latham and I'm the Student Support and Guidance Manager in the School of Arts, Languages and Cultures. And I'm going to talk today about the types of support that we offer in the school and also a bit about university support services. So we are a team of 4 staff, myself as the manager, 2 coordinators, Hannah and Mary, and Ben, the administrator. And when the university is open, we are located in room A15 on the ground floor of the Samuel Alexander building, and the office is open 10 till 4 every day. And you can also contact us by email to salkstudentsupport@manchester.ac.uk. And we are a support service just for students in the School of Arts, Languages and Cultures. We are a large school of over 5,000 students. About 1,100 of our students are registered with the Disability Advisory Support Service, which is known as DAS. And we receive about 2,000 applications for mitigating circumstances every year. And I'll talk a bit more about those in a moment, but this is just to give you an idea of the scale of the school. So ways in which we can support you, well, firstly, accessing specialised help, so from the University Counselling Service, from the Disability Advisory Support Service, or from the University's Occupational Health Service. We can provide you with deadline extensions and other assessment consideration via mitigating circumstances. We monitor your attendance. We can advise you about taking a break from your studies, and we can advise you about regulations, policies and procedures. If things become unmanageable or you begin to feel overwhelmed, it's really important that you seek advice quickly, and you will probably hear a lot at the moment about well-being and support for well-being. So you could talk to us in student support. You'll hear us referred to as SSGO, the Student Support and Guidance Office. You can talk to your academic advisor or your course tutor, or there are staff in the Students' Union welfare team who you could talk to. And they will all be able to advise you about support that's available both within the school and also the university services. If unfortunately you experience any of the following: sexual violence, bullying, stalking, harassment, we can also advise you about the university regulations and procedures and also about appropriate support. For the university support services, the counselling service has a lot of detailed information on their website about the types of support that they offer, including one-to-one appointments with a counsellor, but also online resources and workshops for things like students experiencing anxiety or students with an eating disorder. And some students find the peer workshops very helpful. And the Disability Advisory Support Service, referred to as DAS, they help students who have a disability to access the appropriate support. And the definition of disability is there. Also, the types and range of difficulties that DAS see. So students with both physical or non-physical disabilities or combinations of both. And a lot of our students are registered with DAS for mental health difficulties. And DAS will agree what they call a learning support plan with you, and that recommends the support that you need for your disability. This might include things like exam support, so extra time, invigilation, rest breaks, something you may have had at school or college, automatic extensions for assessed coursework, receiving lecture notes in advance, and any other what they refer to as reasonable adjustments. So when you've agreed the support plan with DAS, it's made available to us in the school, and we ensure that everybody who teaches you has access to the plan so that they're aware of the support that you need. So if you have, or you think you have, a disability, please do contact us in SSGO for advice, or if you prefer, you can contact DAS directly. Moving on to mitigating circumstances, my question for you is, have you registered with a GP in Manchester yet? If you haven't, it's extremely important that you do, not only so that you can access their support quickly rather than having to, for example, return home to your GP at home, but also because if you apply for mitigating circumstances for health reasons, you will be asked, to provide medical evidence to support your application. So here's the definition of mitigating circumstances: personal or medical circumstances which are unforeseeable and unpreventable that could have a significant adverse effect on your performance. And we expect you to apply in advance of a submission deadline or within a week of the deadline. It will be difficult for us to accept applications after that time unless you have a compelling reason as to why you couldn't have applied at the time. And you would need to apply using the online form, and the link is there, which is quick and easy to complete. So as I say, if it's health related, you are going to need to provide evidence, probably a letter from your GP. More details about the types of evidence we need are available on the advice sheet with the online form. And then a committee will consider your application. We do have regular meetings of the committee, and you will get an outcome within 7 to 10 working days of applying, so it is fairly quick. If you're requesting additional time for an assessment, then you may be provided with a deadline extension. If, for example, you've missed an examination, perhaps due to illness, then the committee may recommend a first attempt. So that's another attempt at a new time. And I wanted to mention these two important things, which are actually not grounds for mitigating circumstances. So the first one is IT failure. If you break or lose or have your laptop stolen and you're then not able to submit your work, this is not accepted grounds for mitigating circumstances, because the university considers you should have your work backed up, ideally to the university P drive, and you should normally be able to find an alternative computer or way of producing and completing the work. So information on the P drive is available there. I advise you to have a look at that, particularly because memory sticks can also be problematic. If that fails, again, that wouldn't be considered grounds, because you would have normally been expected to use the P drive to save your work safely. Also, submission via Turnitin. You will get advice about how to submit your work via the software Turnitin. And every time you submit a piece of work, you need to receive a receipt. And the receipt confirms that you've submitted the work, but also the time of submission, which is important. So if you think you submitted a piece of work but you don't have a receipt, then you probably haven't submitted it properly, and you probably then will receive late penalties for a late submission. So please ensure that every time you submit a piece of work, you do have a proper receipt, because this would not be considered grounds for mitigating circumstances. And the third thing that wouldn't be grounds would be multiple assessment deadlines. So it's very common for students just before the Easter break, Christmas break, particularly, to have 3 or even 4 assessment deadlines within the last couple of weeks. You will be aware that these are coming up, they'll be advertised to you. But it's very important that you manage your workload so that you can meet those deadlines. Having 3 or 4 deadlines at the same time is not grounds in itself for mitigating circumstances. And if you start to have problems getting the work done in time, then please do contact your course tutor or your academic advisor for advice. So attendance and engagement. Your attendance will be monitored by the school, and if it's of concern, if your attendance is low, you might receive a warning. But monitoring attendance allows us to spot students who are having problems, so it is a pastoral thing as well. And if you're having problems which are affecting your ability to attend or engage with your studies, it's really important that you come forward. So you can contact us in student support, or you can contact your academic advisor, and we will be able to advise, support you. Again, if you do receive a warning about your attendance, please remember this is your opportunity to explain any difficulties you might be having, and also the opportunity for us to review and put appropriate support in place for you. If for any reason you decide to consider suspending your studies, so that's having an interruption of study, you can make a request. Generally, students who interrupt their studies do so for health reasons, but there may be other reasons why you want to consider doing that. And we can provide you with advice on the process, and also advice about the financial implications of interrupting your studies. And then requests are considered by our Director of Teaching and Learning. They are rarely refused, but they do need to meet the university's criteria. You are expected to request interruption of study in advance, or at the time that you're being affected, rather than months later. And the school may itself advise you to interrupt your studies if, for example, you apply for mitigating circumstances and we have concerns about your health or your ability to continue with your studies. It can be a sensible thing to have a break and to return to your studies when you're well enough to do so. So help and support, if you're having problems, please do let us know. It's so important to come forward as soon as you can so that we can provide appropriate help and support. You can email us, the email address there, and we will respond as quickly as possible. We can make arrangements to call you if you feel it's urgent. This is when the university is closed, but when we're on campus and the campus is open, you can call into the office anytime between 10 and 4, or you can make an appointment with one of us if you prefer to do that. And we also recommend you keep in regular contact with your academic advisor for ongoing support. And finally, the university support services, the counselling service I've mentioned, DAS, and the Students' Union Advice Centre all have detailed information on their websites, and also the Student Services Centre for advice about things like council tax and tuition fees. So finally, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it's been helpful, and I'd like to wish you a very successful start to your studies at the university.